to Politics Tonight, everyone. I've been speaking with Dr. Banwo, a US-based lawyer, and tonight we're discussing the labor union strike and other matters. Dr. Banwo, thank you so much for staying with us. I mean, in the process of labor going on strike, a lot happened. And I'm having this particular conversation with you because you're partially on the side of labor tonight, and also because the House of Reps has taken interest in this particular action. There has been so much criticism towards the actions of organized labor, especially with shutting down critical national infrastructure like the power grid and other installations. I mean, it's sad enough that the entire fiber of the economy is affected. But I'm asking you, shouldn't the national grid be an exception?
It's a good question. First, I want to really correct you. I'm not on anybody's side. If you have been following me of recent, I try not to be on anybody's side. I call it honestly, the way I see it, wherever I am. So, but having said that, you also raised a very important point, and I'm going to keep throwing the question back at you. See, it's one thing to judge. It's another thing to see if you use it to compare yourself. So the national grid. First, you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of a strike? The purpose of a strike is to force the other side to do what you want or to take you serious. So you can, and if you know that shutting down the national grid is what would take them straight to the negotiating table, that's what I would do if I'm the labor leader, particularly when there's no law against it. Now, I also understand the importance of the national grid. What the government should do, maybe this will have opened their eyes, to actually pass laws where some of these critical areas, they are deunionized. It happens abroad, it happens everywhere. Critical areas. You cannot go on strike in America and you work in the nuclear reactor place, then it doesn't happen. So they can then designate areas that cannot be unionized, like the military that they have. They also have the same thing for national grid. Then that's okay. So where there is no law, you cannot say somebody broke a law. So national grid right now is being managed mostly at the private level, right? And the workers there are allowed to be members of a union. So labor union cannot go on strike and then say their guys who are doing a national grid should keep working out. You shut down the whole country, everything, if you can. And it worked. The proof that it worked is that within 48 hours, Mr. President gave order to the minister to go do something about this. So you can't say that was a miss. That was a big move on their part. And I salute them, I know. So if federal government don't want national grid to be shut down, and I agree, there are some areas that should be no go. But right now, it's not excluded. It's in their power. They can pass the law tomorrow and deunionize national grid, deunionize areas that they feel will absolutely shut down our country. Until they do that, I'm with labor on this one. You want to go on strike? My father used to say, Oju afọ foton ijaluman dale. The eye that you break and you don't finish the whole thing only cause fight. National grid, I can tell you, is what forced the hand of the president to act immediately, which is the whole idea. So with all due respect, I also can't be on the side of government on that one. Let them go and prescribe it if they don't want that. But they have not done that, and labor took advantage.
All right. Yeah. I mean, so now that we all agree that Nigerian workers deserve more, what can we do to ensure state governors live up to expectations? I mean, we just heard state governors saying they cannot pay 60,000 naira minimum wage. And last week, I remember the president was addressing the leadership of Arewa Consultative Forum, where he said, we have 774 local governments, but are they effective? And this is because most of the state governors have crippled that third tier of government from functioning. In the last 1 year, you would also recall that the president has increased FAC allocation to states, but this is not yielding the desired result. And if we continue to say federal government cannot do it all, what then are state governors doing?
100%. State governments collect all this money, and many of them, they mismanage, or they are running. See, Nigerians have to decide. Do you want to run a sentimental place where government is just employing people that they don't need, or where they want to run efficiently? We are not saying they should be profitable. But in a situation, I'll give you a good example in Ekiti State. I know that for a fact, right? Where during the time of Aregbesola, there was a local government chairman, who had 4 drivers and 6 mechanics, all working on one tractor that is not even working. The tractor has been down for years, but these drivers are getting paid, like 10 or 12 of them that is supposed to be working on this tractor, including the one that's supposed to service it. They're coming to almost 20. And when I spoke to this local government chairman, I won't mention his name, and he said, I cannot fire them because there will be a problem. I'm like, so you have a tractor that is not working. but you have about 20 staff that you are paying every month because Osun State is a civil service state. That is BS. We have to make up our mind. Do we want to run an efficient government, or do we just want to start paying people because we are the government? If we decide, and that's a decision for Nigeria to take, because Labour will disagree and say they should not fire those who are redundant, but they have to make up their mind. If you want your people to be paid, then we have to be efficient, meaning that in federal government and state government, a lot of their staff need to go. Let them go look for work to do. Let them go learn digital business. Let them go learn how to do farming, whatever. What you cannot do, keep paying salary to people that you need. It's like in your company, your TVC now. It's like needing only one announcer or two announcers for a particular program, but you hire 20. Okay, and now you are struggling with paying, and people are saying you should not let the 18 people go. You should continue to pay them anyway. Where is that done? Private businesses will not do that. Why are we expecting government? So if we decided that our government should just be free for all, then we should not cry. 30,000 naira should be good minimum wage. But if we want the government to be efficient, then we have to allow the government, and the government themselves must be willing to take those tough decisions. I'm talking state governments. Now, many of them don't have the lever because they want to get more votes or because there will be riots or whatever. But if they explain it well, that we have 4 drivers to a tractor that doesn't work, we have 6 people servicing it, we have another 8 that is pouring oil, 20-something people in a dead tractor that is not working, they have to go.
But Dr. Banwo, for these governors who say they cannot pay a certain minimum wage or they do not have money, is it really about a total lack of money, or is it financial corruption a part of this entire problem?
Number 1 is financial corruption. Number 2 is lack of effective management. You cannot say you don't have, you know how much exactly you are getting, both your IGR and from the government. Then you structure your government accordingly. You can't have people, it's criminal in everybody abroad. You're not going to owe somebody 1 month's salary. They're going to jail you. So if you as a governor, you know you cannot pay your staff, then why do you have staff? Or why are you spending all that security money that you are not even accounting for anyhow? You are buying plenty cars. Look at those governors. They are going on entourage. They have 10, 20 cars in a state where they are owing people salary for months. We had a situation in my state, Ogun State, where the governor was building a mansion while he was governor and he was owing 8 months' salary. People should be jailed. So my point is that the state governors, they are inefficient both because they are not thinking outside the box. They are just sitting down collecting checks from Aso Rock, and then they are spending most of it on themselves. I saw the budget for Ogun State and I wanted to cry. Ogun State Governor's Office. It was billions. What are they doing there? And when you go in there, there is no internet. I've gone there to teach. They don't have internet. So what are they spending the money on? It's corruption, it's lack of effective management, and it's sentimental management. All of it combined is why we're here. Labor needs to understand going in. You want this thing called 100,000 minimum wage. You must be ready that a lot of people are going to end up in the unemployment force. Something has to give.
All right.
Something has to give. Yeah.
All right. So, Dr. Ban, we just talked about mismanagement of resources. But, I mean, in debate of the proposed new minimum wage, some say we missed the fundamental point, which is that there is little or slow productivity in the economy. That if we had a robust economy, the government will easily pay what labor is asking for. What's your take on that?
I agree, but we don't have a robust economy. See, I hate people talking about what if. You are here right now. This is the economy you have. People need to get paid. People cannot live on 30,000 naira. That's the reality that you are living with. Now, the prospective, futuristic thing that should happen or should not happen, this, that is for debate later. That is for planning. But today...
but Dr. Banwo, it might not be a debate for later because, I mean, as we move into the second year of President Tinubu's administration, what do you advise the government on that?
What I advise the government, where you have... See, I'm not a politician and I'm not in the public sector. I think like a private citizen. If I have 4 companies and 2 of them are not viable, I'm going to merge them to the ones that are viable or close them down. We know we cannot close states. Maybe we should be getting closer to this regionalism they are talking about. Some states need to be combined, and it's tough because those who are benefiting from those states will never allow for their state to be merged into some. But many of them have not been viable for years. But people keep electing incompetent managers. That's where I'm going to put it. Because if somebody says, I want to run for governor, he knows the problem of that place. He's supposed to come there and solve it. But when he gets there, he's talking about the guys that were there before. He's talking about we have no money. If you know you can't run it, then why are you running for government? Nigerians are not holding their leaders responsible yet. Once you get in there, you own the problem. So they need to start fixing it. A lot of it is wastage. How do you explain a state that is owing 8 months, 10 months salary, building new roads in a place like Osun State, for God's sake? How many cars are there? It's a civil servant place. How many of them own cars? But when you look at what government is doing, big chunk of their money, at least before this one, I don't know what this current one is doing. I'm talking about when I was following it, when Aregbesola was there, he was busy building 6 carriageway lanes, 6 ways to go, 6 ways to come, in a state of civil servants, where 70% of them do not own cars. Instead of focusing on things that will help them to pay their salary, that will help him to empower them for agriculture and things that he can afford, he's busy building. I don't know what the fascination of our governors is with building roads and bridges, because maybe that's the place they can chop money the most, because they can inflate it and it's difficult for you to get. Why do they do that? We have bridges, we have roads. Most of the roads in Osun State, they are not crowded. Why are you building more when you can't pay salaries? Those are the things that people need to be asking. It's mismanagement, because they don't want to do the cheaper things. They can't make enough money on it. I went to a governor and I said, I want to help you empower 100,000 people a year in your state. We gave them a budget. They said, this is too small. I don't want to come out here and start to mention them and debrand them. But the reality is that they are not interested in projects that does not have big enough money for them to chop a big part of it. And that project ended up not getting done. So it's inefficiency, it's corruption. They have the money. The question is, what are you spending the money on? What does a state like Osun, or even Ogun State for that matter, what do they have with building new roads? Daniel built roads all those his 8 years he was there. Amosun built roads. Why should Abiodun even be concerning himself with building roads or bridges? If it's not that something else is wrong with them, or they want to chop money. It should focus on rural empowerment, agriculture, things that people can use to employ themselves. But no, they will tell you half of their money, they are using it to do road and bridge construction in a land that people are starving to death. That part I cannot understand. You go to Zamfara State, the governor will tell you he's building roads. Road to where? Who is using the roads? So that is what I'm saying. We need to be much more active with our governors. If we're not going to go to this regionalism thing, where we are not going to figure out how those who are not viable will be matched with ones who are viable, or whatever we want to do, then we need to hold our governors more accountable to the money they spend.
Absolutely.
It's not a federal government problem. It's a state government problem, mostly. You know how much you are getting. Sit down and plan it well in a way that will benefit your people more. Stop doing stuff that looks shiny, makes you look like you're performing. Oh, yeah, it's opening bridge. Go and look at these governors. Most of what they are declining open is bridge and roads in a state where people can't eat. I don't get that part. And somebody needs to start speaking to that.
All right, Dr. Banwo. I mean, that's it on minimum wage matter. But another reason for the strike is reversal of increased electricity tariff. Do you see this as justified and achievable, especially when you hear Adebayo Adelabu, that's the Minister of Power, say investors are now showing interest in the electricity sector because the federal government increased electricity tariff for Band A customers? How do we, balance this?
My sister, let me be honest with you. I just came back from Nigeria less than 2 weeks ago. One thing I understand, Nigerians don't have a problem paying for service. If you look at Starlink right now, they've reduced it to 400,000, used to be about 1 million to get the internet service, plus 38,000 naira a month. I know because I ordered it. Guess what? Nigerians are complaining now that they are not able to pay. They want to pay, they are rushing to pay for Starlink. And it's a very expensive service, but because it works. So the problem of Nigerians is not about the increased tariff, but the lack of commensurate increase in service. If you are giving them that light, Nigerians will pay. I don't think the light is expensive now, and I don't think there's a problem with increasing the tariff. That's not the problem. And if you are listening to Nigerians, that will not be their problem. Their problem is that they pay this money and they don't get the service. Even the Band A that they are saying is 20 hours a day. Have you asked around? Send your correspondence around. Very few people are getting that. But yet, they are collecting that money from them. So the problem is these institutions, they are fleecing the people without providing the service. Because Nigerians are, they're crazy like that. If the service is working, even the poor Mama Lati in Fadei will find their money and pay. But what they are saying they will not do, and I agree, is for you to increase the tariff, and then the service is going down. In my house in Lekki, by all standards, it's a very beautiful estate with very expensive houses. I don't think I ever got an average of 2 hours of light a day in my 3 weeks in Nigeria. So you think they're going to increase the tariff and I'm going to be happy? No, I'm not going to be happy. I won't beat up the guy. But if I can avoid from paying, I will not pay because I got no service. But if I got 24-hour service and they are telling me it's time, even at the point me, I was begging, how can I get on this tariff A or whatever they call it so that I can have more light? They say it's not for my area. I was ready to pay. And many Nigerians are like that. So let's not confuse it. If they want to increase the tariff, then improve your services. You cannot give me the same poor and bad service and then you raise price. Where is that done? And that's what the government should focus on. Are we getting improved service? What is justifying the increase? This got to be fair. This has to be fair. Right. People are crying. Yes.
All right.
Sorry,
thank you very much, Dr. Banwo. Let's move on to other matters. 2 more issues before we wrap it up tonight. Quickly, as an update from the last conversation we had precisely 2 weeks ago, we talked about the role of the judiciary in upholding and strengthening the rule of law in Nigeria. And I also remember we talked about elements that sustain the judicial system of any nation. Just yesterday, the Senate has approved a bill that grants a 300% salary increase for judicial workers at the federal and state level. What's your reaction to this, and what does this mean for the judiciary?
Number one, I have to give kudos to the government and the National Assembly. When they do stuff right, we have to give them credit. I think it was a disgrace, the way the kind of salary our judiciary is being paid. The last time they reviewed it was 2007, which is like 17 years ago. So they deserve that 300% increase even more. So I have to say kudos to NAS, and especially to President Tinubu for always being responsive. People might think I'm playing up to, no, I don't. I've seen a president that is responsive, whether good or bad. When people shout, the presidency responds. To me, that is democracy. So now, hopefully, now that the judiciary has been sorted to a large extent, hopefully we can then begin to see more independence from them. And now, I'm not even going to say they're not independent now. I'm a very straight-up talker on this matter. What we then need is people, now, the enforcement against corruption in the judiciary should then be stepped up. Because now you have no excuse. If they are already paying you well and you are still not doing independent thing, then you need to be disciplined. So for me, it's a welcome development, but to whom much is given, much is expected. And that needs to be more scrutiny in terms of the law enforcement agencies to make sure the few bad eggs that we have are brought to book. I think our judiciary, and I'm in the minority here, I think they are doing a good job considering what they have to operate with. Not because I'm a lawyer, I don't practice in Nigeria, so I'm not afraid of any of them. But I've read many of their judgments. Some are absurd, I get it, but mostly they're doing a fantastic job. If you have to operate in a courtroom where files are everywhere, you are dealing with hundreds of thousands of cases simultaneously, it's tough for you to give good judgment. So apart from the salary, they need to decongest the courts. They need to have more judges. They need to have more courts. They need to have all those structures that they need to perform better. But so salary alone is not enough. It's a good beginning. I will have to give it to them. But you're not just going to increase my salary, but I see I have a files all over the floor in my court that is overflowing, especially the magistrates, the uncelebrated magistrates. They do so much work. And you look at the cost and you're wondering, how can somebody operate here? They have to operate in the heat, where there is no AC, there's no amount of money you pay them, you are still not going to get good service. So it should be a holistic thing, is what I see. And I think this is a problem. They took out the judiciary, they've given them 300% increase. What about the other sectors of the economy? Now, when those ones ask for 300% increase, now we will say it's too much. It should have been a holistic work so that everybody, same time, the whole thing is adjusted across the board and nobody is feeling cheated. Judiciary cannot 300%, and then you are expecting those in the other sectors, in the health, to stay with their own salary.
All right. So because you just talked about how impressed you are with the president on this, let me have you assess the
push out, Asorok responds. And I've seen him do that over and over and over and over. And I'm like, wow, we might see just make it with this man. That's what I'm thinking now, because he's responsive. Now he needs better thinking from his people. President cannot think all these things through. So when you put a policy, before you put it out there, it's what we do when I was in Atlanta. So you think of the effects, what you want to solve, and then you look at the problems that will be created.
All right, Dr. Banwo, so when you say his people, how would you assess the president's cabinet, coupled with the president's stand to sack non-performing ministers?
Well, he needs to sack so many of them out there. All right, I'm not going to mention names because Mr. President has at his disposal some of the supposedly best brains in the world, or in Nigeria at least. Some of them have not been put to use. Where is Raji Fashola in this game? Hey, I'm not talking politics. Those are some of the brains that are on the sidelines that are wasting. Where is Biki Ogala in this government? Where there are people that we expect that we know have the brain power to be able to influence things. Some of the ones that are there that we also expect have the brain power, they've not been satisfactory so far. So I think Mr. President needs to shuffle the manpower around him. I'm satisfied with him as president. All president can do is cast the vision. Okay, I think he can do better in terms of the vision, but it's mostly by his technocrats, those around him. He's leaving a lot of weapons on the table. I don't care what their problems were together when they were doing their politics. All I know is that I want to see Raji Fashola in this government. I want to see him do something. I want to see a Biki Ogala in this government. I can list 10, 20 of them, okay? But they're not there.
All right. Dr. Banwo, it's been interesting speaking with you tonight. And as always, thank you so much for your perspective. Dr. Banwo, Okwe Banwo is a U.S.-based lawyer, is an author, entrepreneur, and internet business consultant. Thank you so much for your perspective tonight, sir. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode.